Hello, Coven. It's Tay, your most bizarre sister. Just a heads up to let you know that this episode covers man-made disasters and features some pretty graphic content. We know that you tune into the Weird Sisters for your bi-weekly dose of weird, and we thank you. In regards to the recent tragedy in Beirut, we thought we would give you a heads up as the content in this episode may be particularly distressing to some listeners. It was recorded prior to the disaster. You can find resources and donation links for the people of Beirut on our social media pages, which you can access via weirdsisтерspodcast.com. Thank you and be safe. We love you. Enjoy.
Double, double, toil and trouble. Some topics discussed may make people uncomfortable. For fair is foul and foul is fair. On this podcast, we will definitely swear. A lot. Now round the cauldron go, trigger warnings listed in the notes below. Thrice and once the hedge pig whined, the cocktails cry, it's time, it's time.
By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. Maiden, mother, crone. Plot twist, we're all the crone. The stories aren't all made up and the points don't matter.
Welcome, listeners, to The Weird Sisters, a podcast about the blurst and bizarre and all the things you were happier not knowing about.
Hello.
Hax.
I like how we all waited for everyone else and then just went, hello!
Yeah, we're also excited to have our new microphones here that we're like, me first. We're all rushing to the
Superior
front.
audio quality.
Mm-hmm.
Superior audio quality.
Very excited to listen to this one back.
If I edit this and it sounds fucking terrible, I'm just going to kill myself. No, I'm not really. I'm just going to be very sad.
I'll be very sad too. I'm currently underneath a dinosaur blanket, boiling alive with my giant hog of a gaming PC just baking me. It's really funny.
Beautiful. Well, it is winter, so
Should I be under a blanket?
I'm not, so
No.
sorry.
I have a
okay.
very echoey room, so I'm taking extra precautions.
Okay.
I was very echoey when I tested it yesterday. And we don't want that in our podcast
no, we do
audio.
not. No, we want superior podcast audio for our wonderful listeners.
So you're welcome,
you.
everyone.
Yeah, exactly. We each spent money on better microphones. Excellent. Well, it's nice to be back. Hello, everyone. Hello.
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 Are we all happy to be back? What's new?
What's new? Relishing in the last week of university holidays before the dreaded semester 2 hits. We'll see how we cope with that. Yes.
That's why we're pre-recording.
Yes. Got to get in there early.
Yup. I'm excited. Actually, no, I'm not. I don't want to go back to uni.
Oh,
Oh, no. How are you, Lacey?
Yeah, good. Look, nothing's really changed. My day-to-day is exactly the same as it has been for the past 200 and something days that I'm at now. So, yeah.
I like that you've kept count.
Yeah, it keeps me going.
yeah. I like to imagine there's a little wall in your house with little like check marks, like
Little
going
scratches,
across.
like,
Yeah.
like in a prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. Well, that's lovely. I'm glad that your almost year now has been the same.
Yeah. Every day, the same.
Just sounds like a 9 Inch Nails song now.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's introduce ourselves now that we've spoken our woes into the universe of podcasting. Who are you? Someone fucking answer me.
Oh God, I thought Lacey's gonna go. We'll cut that one out. I'll go first. Okay. I am the disembodied light at the end of the tunnel. Why don't you follow me? Tay.
Yay!
Oh. I like it.
Me now.
Oh, okay.
You put a lot of thought into this.
Please.
Should we just we'll just edit the shit out of it, I guess.
I like how you say will. Yes, we will.
We'll both be there on Discord while you edit it.
Yeah, well, I slam my head into the table and just go,
Oh.
why? No, it's fine. I love editing our podcast. It's a dream. Who are you, Lacey? Continue.
I am a bucket of eyeballs. Lacey.
Oh, I like it. That's
Oh.
nice, and makes me wonder what the fuck your story is going to be about this week.
Very tactile.
Ooh.
It reminds me of those haunted houses when you do when you're a kid and they give you like a jar of
grape.
peeled grapes.
Yeah.
Mum used to do
that's
that
what I
all the
thought.
time in cold spaghetti.
Oh, the
Bless
Simpsons
her.
episode.
Yeah, that's so sweet. I'm Laura. I am the Monster Energy drinks, no sugar, that we have all been consuming throughout this terrible time where time doesn't mean anything and I don't want to even think about it anymore. Hello!
We're running on stevia and chemicals.
Yep, that's all. My very hippie friend called me the other day on FaceTime and was talking to me about how wonderful his life is because he's an actual human being and takes care of himself and has sunlight and a house where he has plants and shit. And I happened to take a drink of a Coke No Sugar as we were on the camera talking to each other, and he was just like,
Oh,
what
no.
the fuck is that? He was
It's my
so
only vice.
unhappy
Leave me
with
be.
It's like, oh, it's not my only vice. It's definitely not.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've been told off many, many times for it, and I'm just not caring anymore. I want
That's
the
fair.
stevia. Give it to me.
I've been smashing down sugar-free solos like you wouldn't believe.
Oh,
Like it's
yum.
$5 for a case, and I've just been tossing them back, grip it and rip it, bud. It's been a time.
Yep. Sugar-free Sprite, another good one. Very
Oh,
into it.
Yes.
Delightful.
I don't do the sugar free. I want the full fat version.
You
I
want the
haven't-
no cancer.
I want the no
Yeah.
cancer, please. I just want the diabetes. That's what I've chosen instead. I'm on my 4th cup of tea.
Oh,
Delightful.
very nice.
So there we go.
It's very
I
something very
have-
romantic
How
about
much-
a cup of tea.
How much tea is too much tea? I don't know.
The limit
There's
does
no
not
such thing.
exist.
England says that it doesn't exist. I have an espresso martini in a can for after this.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's
Ooh.
actually surprisingly good. Like, I did not expect that. Kahlua make them.
Oh,
Nice. Very good.
I want that.
I like them. We have a theme for the week. It is disasters. We actually have this theme for 2 weeks in a row. We decided to do disasters, both man-made and natural, without interference, because COVID's a fucking disaster. My life is a disaster, so why not just spread it around? And we're doing.
Spread it around like that hotel security. Spread it around.
Oh, I didn't know. Like, everyone was making memes about it, and I have just been very sheltered and not really paid attention to what's going on. And JD was trying to tell me about it and laugh with me about it, and I was like, I don't understand what's going on. He's like, the security guard that had sex with the people who were in isolation.
Everyone
I was like,
had sex
whoa.
with everyone.
So there was an orgy in that hotel. Right, I understand now. It's pretty not nice. It's not a great disaster. But if it has
What
the word
disaster is?
disaster in it, me. I am a great disaster. Okay, I'm going to keep bigging myself up that way. Anyway, so I decided to do the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. I don't know if you've heard of it, Tay, but I know Lacey has.
Not a
Yes.
clue.
I know exactly
Exciting.
what it was. Yeah.
I know. I had a feeling you would. It's really interesting because I actually hadn't heard about it until probably about a year ago when I heard about it on another podcast, and I can't remember which one it was. So whoever you are, shout out to you. I'm sorry, I can't remember who you were. But it's hectic and quite a lot, but it's still good. It's a good time. So this is from 1911, March 25th in New York City. So basically at this time in New York, there was a lot of people working in garment factories. So on the Lower East Side of New York, there was around about 100,000 people, which with a population of like 4.7 million at the time, and this is just one section of the city. It's like shitloads of people working in this one industry. And basically it was a particular factory. The building was called the Ash Building. And
Foreshadowing.
Well,
Yep. I know. I looked at that and was like, huh. Okay.
The best name. Carry on.
Well, yeah. And this particular, like, the whole industry was pretty much all young women and teenagers. Like 10-year-olds were working just in this factory, and many, many others like it. because a significant portion of them were actually immigrants, particularly Italian and Jewish immigrants from like Russia, Ukraine, and Poland, because of a lot of the like political upheaval that was happening there at the time. And so supporting their families in a new country, they were not making money for themselves, but they were actually just trying to keep their whole family alive. So yeah, 10-year-olds working in garment factories was the obvious solution for that. Thanks, 1911. So the way that it sort of worked is that there was 3 floors of this business building, the 8th, 9th, and 10th, that were just the Shirtwaist factory. And it was located just off of Washington Square Park, which was like a super wealthy neighborhood that just happened to have a sweatshop there. So that's nice. Pretty much like all of the women that worked there, because like 90% of the people that worked there were women, they all had multiple family members working there because they would get each other jobs, and it was quite a good job at the time to get. And we'll get to why that was. But so it's a really, really densely populated factory. It's a very wealthy suburb, but it is a sweatshop. There are about like 700 people plus working in the building. They did 11 to 14 hour work days, but some sources seem to think that like 9 hours a day was more likely. They also worked on weekends, so like they did Saturdays, they did 7 hours, and then weekdays they did 9 hours supposedly. There's lots of conflicting info about it, but the worst part was they made like $7 to $12 a week for 52 hours plus. Jesus. Which, yeah.
Huh.
And in today's money, it's like $189 to maybe $325.
Oh my God.
Nothing. Yeah, it's like no money. On top of that, the owners of the factory docked them for needles and thread and electricity that they used for their machines. So they didn't even like get to make their whole paycheck. If they, you know, their needles broke, or if they needed more of the material than someone else because they messed up, or whatever happened, then they came straight out of their pay. But the way that this factory was set up was like there were really long tables that were just machine after machine in rows, and they all just literally sewed shirtwaists, which were a kind of blouse that looked like pretty much just a men's business shirt, but for women. And that's all they made all day, every day. So with the setup, because obviously they're quite narrow, like they've shoved as many people as possible into these 3 floors. These long lines of sewing machines had scrap bins just at the front of them. And the scrap bins had like 2 months worth of accumulated cuttings at the time when this fire took place. So hundreds of pounds of scraps of cotton and the tissue paper from sewing templates and things like that. It's not a great setup already. It does not sound very nice. Yeah, exactly. And this is 1911, so I don't know if y'all know anything about how workplace health and safety works, but 1911 didn't care.
What workplace health and safety?
Exactly. I was actually kind of surprised by some of the things that people at the time were upset about when it came out. I was like, oh, I'm impressed that you gave a shit about that. I didn't think you would. So we begin the day that it happens. When it actually took place was Saturday at the end of the workday. It was around about 4:40 p.m. on the 8th floor when a fire begins in a scrap bin of cloth. Possibly it's from a cigarette, but that seems to be the thing that everyone throws around. But they keep going back to how like the owners themselves kept saying like, oh, you're not allowed to smoke. But it's 1911. Everyone fucking smoked. And also there was like women that would tell like survivors afterwards would be like, oh yeah, everyone smoked, especially the managers, but they would just like blow it into their lapels so you couldn't see where the smoke was coming from because it would just dissipate through your shirt, which I found very funny. But so a fire begins and a manager attempts to put the fire out immediately. Good on them. But the hose valve is rusted shut, the hose is rotted away, and there's no sprinkler system. So yeah, it's not good.
Oh my God.
There's a quote as well. I got it from history.com, which was actually like quite good at covering this. You would not expect it from history.com. Sorry, not throwing shade. But basically the Triangle factory had water buckets in place for extinguishing fires on top of this hose. which was a very common practice for those factories at the time. But there was a worker there called Mary who later said in the 1960s in an interview that the buckets were empty that morning. She said, on that particular day of the tragedy, I remarked to one of my colleagues that the buckets were empty, and if anything were to happen, they would be of no use. So that's a shame. Yeah. So we've got a rotten hose, no sprinkler system. The hose valve is just rusted shut, so even if there was a hose, too fucking bad. Apparently...
And the entire floor is covered in fibrous cotton.
Yeah. Exactly. And someone still decided to have a cigarette, but okay.
Look, they've had shit lives. They're allowed to smoke whenever they want. My opinion. Carry on.
Carry on. So, like, the fire was noticed immediately. It's not like it was a surprise and someone turned around and was like, oh, shit. It spread really quickly because of the tinderbox situation, and a bookkeeper called Dinah on the 8th floor immediately calls the 10th and warns that there's a fire. She did not call the 9th. There was no way to actually contact them, and there was no audible alarm. So they did try to alert them on the 9th floor, but they literally didn't answer, or the phone didn't work. I couldn't figure out what it was. But basically she's quoted as, Dinah, this woman, is quoted as having been like, I can't get anyone. She's pretty much screaming it. And then a later survivor said that the very first warning that the 9th floor even got of the fire was when they fucking saw the fire. And it was just there. Yeah, so terrifying. So a survivor from the 9th floor called Cecilia said the girls at the machines began to climb up on the machine tables, maybe because they were frightened, or maybe they thought that they could run to the elevator on top of the machines. But the aisles were really narrow and were blocked by the chairs that they were all sitting at and the baskets for these scraps. And these girls began to fall into the fire, trying to run away from it.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's not ideal. So there's 2 stairways that they could possibly have escaped from, all the people on these 3 floors. There's one to Green Street, which was the way that the managers tried to force the staff to leave so they could check all their purses for stolen cloth at the end of every shift.
Ugh.
Yeah. The other stairwell had the exit locked from the outside because they wanted to stop people from leaving that way so they wouldn't be able to... So they'd be able to basically prevent theft and from, unsanctioned breaks. Which is just depressing. The dude who had the key... Because there's, 10% of the workers are men. They're foremen and things like that. The guy who had the key, the foreman, had already escaped a different way. So, yeah.
What a hero.
Yeah.
The foreman escaped a different way. What a sentence. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
They do also have 1 flimsy fire escape and 4 elevators. 12 people can fit inside the elevators at a time, but only 2 were functional at the time of the fire. And
This place is a fucking ramshackle.
yeah. And there's 700 people working in this building. So, it's not only the people from the floors the fires are on that are trying to escape. There's also all these other fucking people who are trying to get out of the building. On the 8th floor, there are 230 people working there alone at the time of the fire. So one of the elevator operators manages to make 3 rescue trips before warping prevents any more. They literally can't get up and down because of the fact that the fire is so hot it's warped the elevator. So people pried open the doors and just jumped down the elevator shafts trying to slime down the cables.
Oh my god, no.
Yep. The second operator manages to make 4 trips before the bodies on top of the elevator make it impossible for them to keep going. Girls were literally jumping on top of the elevator as it descended and trying to ride it down to the bottom when there was no more room inside, and the extra weight caused it to sink right to the bottom of the shaft, because there's actually space always between the last 4 and where the elevator shaft finishes. So it just forced it right down, and they couldn't actually make it rise up again. So they couldn't rescue any more people after that 4th trip. So the woman I mentioned before, Cecilia, she actually was one of the people on the 9th floor who saw the girls falling into the fire that I mentioned. She made it to the elevator, but she missed it. So she wrapped a decorative muff around her hands and managed to actually slide down the cable, but she broke her arm and a finger upon impact at the bottom, and suffered a major head injury and horrific burns, but she did survive. So
we love a surviving queen. Oh my god.
I know, wild. Like, can you imagine that? Fuck, just watching this elevator
decorative
leave.
Muff.
With a decorative muff. I didn't even know what that was. I had to Google it.
The hand thing, right? You put your hand in it.
Yeah, the hand thing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
My educated guess, the hand thing.
The hand thing. Hey, you're right. Yeah. We don't use them anymore. And the word muff has different connotations these days.
You can still put your hands in it.
Holy shit.
Keep them warm.
You're fucked. I love it.
I'm sorry.
I love it. That was wonderful. Thank you very much. So, the fire department came. They did actually do their job. But the fire hoses and ladders could only reach to the 7th floor. And the fire's on the 8th. And it went up. It did go down, but it went up first. So basically the fire escape collapses from the weight of escaping workers almost like instantly, super, super quickly. 20 of them fall 30 meters to their deaths onto the pavement below. Yeah. There's a crowd gathered, by the way, like, people are everywhere and immediately see that there's a fire going on and just stand around looking up at it. In a neighbouring building, which is actually the New York University Law School, a university professor sees workers fleeing to the roof of the Shirtwaist factory 15 feet below, and he and his students use ladders left by painters earlier in the week to help them escape onto the school roof. An unconscious girl with smouldering hair is the last person to be rescued from the roof.
Smouldering hair.
Yes.
Oh,
so this whole thing is horrendous. Like obviously in Australia, like, we've recently gone through fires, and they are horrendous. Like, the bushfires were so scary. This somehow made me a lot more aware about how quickly fire can spread in a contained space.
Yes.
Because you always sort of look around, like, I don't know about anyone else, obviously, but this is just me. I look around and be like, well, a lot of this isn't flammable. In my apartment, for example, like, the walls won't burn. Yes, they fucking will. Like, you know, material that you expect not to burn will burn, and it will burn very quickly, and it can get extremely hot, especially in, like, a contained space. So yeah, the stuff that you hear about, like, women's hair burning, their clothes spontaneously catching fire when they're not touching fire. It's that hot that they just burst into flame. It's crazy. It's horrifying.
When I was working at the DFO, so the whole DFO is underground. There's a few staircases to go out. And whenever we had a fire thing, which happened a lot because it's a cavity fire and everybody has to get out. I had customers that were really pissed off that I wasn't putting through their sales and I was trying to evacuate people.
I'm sorry. I want to live.
I'm sorry.
All right, Karen.
I'm sorry.
Fucking hell.
I'm not dying for this fucking, jumper that you need. That's not even in your size anyway, but you're buying it. I'm
Because
not
it's at a
dying for that.
DFO.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I hate
not
people.
Not dying for your bargains. Thank you.
No. God, the customer service industry is so broken.
It is.
So broken.
I had God, I work in a bar, and there was a guy. My bar's on 2 different levels, and there's part of it is sort of like sitting over the entry staircase, and the booth that sits over that. Drunk people have this weird fascination with looking down and seeing how close the staircase is and thinking, I could jump that. One dude tried. Yeah. And immediately broke his ankle horrifically. Like, it was very obvious that it was broken. And being on a staircase and not able to move, like, we called, obviously, the ambulance to come immediately. But dude couldn't get off the staircase. My manager had to hold his broken foot in a bucket because it was just dangling, which was agonizing for him. So he had to try and support the ankle for him while we waited. Yeah. And drunk cunts were still trying to, like, step over him to get out or get in. I'm like, no! What are you doing?
Have some fucking decency.
It was insane. We had to, like, direct them down the fire escape. And our fire escape is rickety as shit. It is horrifying. And drunk people trying to go down that was just years off my life. So, yeah, people are horrible. I'm really sad about it sometimes. But, so we had an unconscious girl with smouldering hair, the last person to be rescued. 70 people on floor 10. There were 70 people working on floor 10 on the day, and only one of them perished, which was way better than the rest of them.
Perished. These strong verbs coming through.
Sorry.
Thank you, diploma of writing.
Thank you, diploma of writing. Yeah, definitely. So a large crowd is gathered outside the factory, and they're literally watching people at the windows trying to get out. A lot of people are crushed to death trying to escape, where the crowd is pressing away from the fire and they're pushing the people behind them into walls.
Oh, Jesus.
Or stepping on them, climbing on top of them, just trying to get away from the heat. The vast majority of the women on the 9th floor do die. 62 of them jump, so they die on impact, obviously, and unfortunately some of them are impaled on a pointed fence below.
Oh, this is just every sentence. It just gets worse. I'm like, no, it can't get any worse.
That's why
Smouldering
when we
hair.
were doing. Oh, I know. That's why when we were doing this one, I was like, okay, I know which disaster I'm picking because
Oh yeah.
it's so horrible.
Thank you.
So there's a young man that's seen by spectators. I don't know what else to use there.
Yeah, spectators is good. Yep.
Yeah. He's
It's
seen
spectacle.
helping girls up onto the window ledge one after the other to jump. Because they're all in dresses and heels for their work day. So he's just trying to help them up onto the ledge so they can each jump without falling. I don't know why that upset me so much, but yeah, it was so sad. And the last girl kisses him before they jump together.
Oh, it's tragic. 14-year-old me would have fucking loved that.
Oh god, yes, it's horrible. Why do you think all teenagers love Romeo and Juliet?
Yeah.
So, while some jumped, others, according to a woman called Ethel, who was there at the time, became frozen with fear and just never moved. They literally were just overtaken by the fire where they stood and sat. Just terrified, which is awful. On the other side of the building from where the jumpers were mostly seen, 33 people trying to press away from the flames burst a window and just fall, many of them burning while they fell to their deaths. A witness, Rosie, said one girl fell down and broke through the sidewalk on the cellar below, into the cellar below, and that shows how much force they actually fell with. Just smashed through concrete.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Another fell from the 8th floor to the 6th, and her clothing caught on a hook that suspended a sign, and she smashed a window with her fists and managed to escape. So she survived.
Huh.
Yep. Girls that were trapped in the stairwell, the one that was locked, their hair and clothing catch fire. A few of them die of smoke inhalation, but unfortunately not many of them. I know smoke inhalation is not really a better way to go, but, you know, burning to death isn't fantastic either.
No. Lesser of two evils there, I think.
Yeah. So there's a quote from Lewis Waldman, which said that word had spread through the east side by some magic of terror that the plant of the Triangle Waste Company was on fire and that several hundred workers were trapped. Horrified and helpless, the crowds, I among them, looked up at the burning building, saw girl after girl appear at the reddened windows, paused for a terrifying moment, and then leaped to the pavement below, to land as mangled, bloody pulp. This went on for seemingly a ghastly eternity. Occasionally, a girl who hesitated too long was licked by the pursuing flames and fell, screaming with clothing and hair ablaze, plunged like a living torch into the street. Life nets held by firemen were torn on the impact of falling bodies.
Oh, that's... Oh, my God. And that's just a witness account. That is so poetic.
I know, that's just some dude.
It's just very, very vivid.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
It was insane. Like, people were hysterical. Like, people were fainting. Men were weeping. Like, everyone was just in a frenzy, like, hurling themselves against the police lines, trying to just, I don't even know, like, get in there, do something.
Yeah.
It was horrible. It went on for 18 minutes total, like, beginning to end of the fire. 146 people died all up, only 2 of them in hospital. The rest of them died on the scene. Of the 146, 123 of them were women and girls.
Oh, that's right. They're like, there's 10-year-olds. Oh my God, there's 10-year-olds in this place.
Yep.
Oh, I completely forgot about the child labour. Fuck.
It's fucking horrible because the oldest victim was 43 and the youngest were two 14-year-old girls.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 23 of the victims were men, but they were pretty much all your managers, your bosses. Most of the victims die of burns, asphyxiation, blunt impact injuries, or a combination of all three. 6 victims remain unidentified until a historian called Michael Hirsch completes a bunch of research many years later and actually identifies all of them by name. There's only
That's
one
lovely.
person. I know, it's really nice. There was only one person who was actually found alive in the wreckage who hadn't escaped from the building. They were trapped in the elevator shaft. I don't know if that's the girl who earlier broke her arm and finger. I couldn't actually find anything, but like, I think it may have been.
Potentially.
Because how would you get out?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Which would be horrible because, like, there's other bodies in that elevator shaft.
Yeah.
So that's fucking awful. So afterward, the captain of the fire department basically said of his initial survey of the 9th floor, "I stepped on something that was soft, and only then he realized that he had reached a pile of bodies." Firefighters, yeah. The firefighters actually find a 6-foot high pile of bodies jammed up against the door of the back stairwell. The bodies were burned to bare skeletons. Skeletons bent over sewing machines everywhere. So they were literally just people that just sat there, which is fucking awful.
Oh,
Holy shit.
yeah. A lot of the reason why a lot of them would have jumped on the sewing tables is because their skirts would have caught.
Yep.
So
Literally.
it would have just been pretty instant.
Well, sheer panic. Like, if this happened in 18 minutes, like, that's such a short period of time to go from just going about your workday, possibly getting ready to go home, to all of a sudden there's walls of flames around you, you know, like, there was nowhere for these girls to go. It was literally like every possible escape was blocked. It was so awful. Like, some of the accounts, because there's a lot about this was like a defining moment for a lot of history when it comes to how we've changed work health and safety laws. So it was very seriously like researched and looked into. A lot of the individuals that were involved, like, people have tracked their movements, sort of thing. And it's just so intense, like, trying to read through survivor accounts of what happened. And some of it was used against them, which is really fucked up, and we'll get to that in a second. So all the bodies were taken to a temporary morgue that was set up on a covered pier at the foot of East 26th Street. There's photographs, like a lot of photographs of women and girls' bodies in coffins. There's a long line of people parade past them. Obviously, like, just passers-by, but also their families trying to find out who was there, whether or not they made it. So awful. There's lots and lots of photos as well, just as a warning in case anyone decides to go Google it, of the bodies where they've fallen in the street, with police obviously looking up and bystanders looking up, which is tragic. So be careful if you do decide to Google it. It is not nice. So this was the deadliest workplace disaster up until 9/11 in New York City history. Like, not worldwide, but because there was many worse ones. Like, there was we were talking about it just the other day, Lacey, the Bangladeshi garment factory fire. Awful. Very similar to this fire in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah.
After the Shirtwaist factory fire, there was a huge funeral march of like 350,000 people that was led by an empty horse-drawn hearse that was just all through the city. People were so upset about this. Like, the fact that it was young women, I think, really upset a lot of people in particular. Not saying that it should necessarily be more horrific because it was young women. It's just, I think at the time we placed a lot of value on them and it was just awful. So there was a huge outcry about it, and the factory owners got fucked up initially. People were really fucking mad. They were Max Blanc and Isaac Harris. So they were present. They were actually like at the factory on the day, on the 10th floor, where everyone lived bar one person. They did escape by going to the roof with everyone else, and both of them, I cannot confirm this because it was mentioned casually that they had invited their children to work with them that day, but I don't know if they were there. So, interesting. But both of them were put on trial for manslaughter and then eventually declared not guilty.
Yep.
Okay.
So they hired this really well-known attorney, Max D. Stewart, who basically became known as $1 Million Stewart. Yeah. He dealt with a lot of celebrity sex scandals and like disputed wills of really wealthy families and things like that. So what he did, and this is fucked, so he destroyed the credibility of one of the survivors, and her witness account was like one of the things that was really heavily focused on in the trial. Her name's Kate Alderman. He asked her to repeat her testimony a bunch of times over and over again, which she did without altering key phrases. And he argued to the jury that she and possibly other witnesses had memorized their statements and been told what to say by the prosecutors. And so the jury acquitted them of first and second degree manslaughter, and that was pretty much that for a long time.
Fuck's sake.
So infuriating.
Yeah.
Oh, they were
quietly seething under my blanket here just now.
I also have a blanket around my shoulders and I'm very mad about it. So they were later found liable for a wrongful death in a civil suit. And the compensation that they paid was $75 per person who died in the fire. But the insurance company paid them about $60,000 more than the reported losses that they would have paid, which was about $400 per casualty in the end, in our current like amount. Wait, no, that wouldn't be right. It must have been $400 per casualty at the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. So they paid $75 per casualty, and then they gained back $400 per casualty.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
The injustice.
It's so fucking upsetting.
Uh,
They did have to be escorted from like the building by a side door because the crowd was real fucking mad.
good.
Good. So apparently crowds of like the relatives of victims and things like that filled the courtroom. And when they exited, they were just literally met by women shrieking, "Murderers, murderers, give us back our children." And they had to bring in like a shitload of police to try and stop the incident from happening again throughout the trial. Because they just kept coming back to scream at them, as you fucking would when your child died from this horrible, horrible thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Didn't learn anything though, because in 1913, Blanc is arrested again for locking the door of his factory during working hours, and he's fined $20, which is the minimum amount he could be fined for.
Bullshit.
Yup.
Bullshit.
Worse, there's even speculation that it was arson by the owners, because they actually had 4 suspicious fires at their companies before this happened. Yep.
Oh my God. You slimy little men. You
fucked.
You're fucked.
It's so upsetting. So pretty much like the shirtwaist that they were making, that they produced, the only thing they produced, was falling out of fashion. And to like the cost of materials is rising. Unions are starting to form at this time. They're like demanding better pay, better hours, etc. Because, as we have looked at, they were working shitloads of time for no money, and they were hiring children to do this. So basically, the year before the fire, the workers of this factory in particular had put on a strike demanding better conditions. And so these two fuckers, Blanc and Harris, had hired sex workers and gangsters to go and assault the workers on their picket line.
Yep.
They're just the worst people.
This mess just keeps getting worse.
I'm not done.
Take it away.
So the cops at the time are in the pockets of the garment factory business owners who also harass the picketers. The lead of the is one of the women who was sort of organizing it all, Clara Limlake. She was ambushed by these thugs that had been hired, and they broke 6 of her ribs. So she's just this poor woman. And then at the time, all the very corrupt politicians in the area, they're super pro-business. So basically, no one's fucking helping these women. Prior to this fire happening, no one really gave a shit. Which is why the public got so upset when all these details started to come out, and they started to realize this was always going to happen. Where it happened is irrelevant, because there's so many people working in these garment factories all across the city, and they're all the most vulnerable people. So it totally redefined how the American industrial workplace sort of operated, and it was a really key moment in it because it started to create these prevention laws directly as a result of it. One of the people that went and saw the fire as it was happening, just happened to be in the street and saw it, was a woman called Frances Perkins. And she started pushing to create much more effective evacuation plans, and she used the building as a model for what safety codes should look like, instead of what it did look like. Clara Limlake, the girl who had all her ribs broken, went on to become a key part of the movement that got the regulations and rules put into place that benefited the workers rather than the owners, because prior to that it was literally all just how to make the most money for the business owners.
Yeah, and it was an honour to be working at their factory. You should be grateful that you have a job,
Exactly.
That kind of
Exactly, that's it. And that's why there were so many, families were devastated by this, because they didn't just lose, one person. They lost multiple members of their family, because if one girl got a job at the factory, or woman got a job at the factory, she would bring in so many of her other people that she could to work there, because they didn't have jobs, and it was a good job by comparison to what they could get. Because you didn't have to speak English, which a lot of them didn't at the time. You didn't have to have any sort of particular skill. And everyone was, most women could sew quite well in those days, of course, because most of you would make your own clothes because it's expensive to buy them. Yeah, and there was one of these women had her son working there, right next to her, and her young daughter as well, and her aunt, and all these people just died except for her. It's so sad. So basically Frances Perkins and Clara Limlake went to try and prove that Triangle's not an anomaly. The factory was exactly like all the others. There were fire escapes that were no bigger than hatches, and Frances Perkins forced the head of the state senate to crawl through one to sort of be
good,
fucking look at it. Which, what a badass. So while she was trying to sort of get all this put together, because she's really pushing to have a reform of all of the building codes and how it operates, she organised a group of people that went and took a look at all the different factories. They raided a cannery where kids were forced to work till they passed out from exhaustion.
God.
Yeah. One factory tried to hold child workers in an elevator and stopped it between the floors just to be we have no child workers here. What are you talking about?
Oh, God. Reject modernity. Down. Oh, my God. This is ridiculous.
I know. But by the end of 1911, the year that the fire happened, there were 15 new bills that they had proposed, and 8 of them did become law. So they had things like exit doors had to be unlocked, there must be fire escapes, they had a lot of stuff to do with how long women and children could work, etc. Of those 8 laws, all of them addressed deadly problems from shirtwaist in particular. It also went on to spawn workmen's compensation for injury, mandatory fire extinguishers, fire alarm systems and automatic sprinklers, maximum hours for how long women and children could work, protection for child workers, and also mandatory restrooms had to be provided for workers, because before that they didn't have to do it. You just had to hold it, or you had to run on your break and hope that maybe you got to pee beforehand.
Oh, so they're taking from the Book of Amazon working conditions. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
Amazon would have fucking loved all of this. So Perkins went on to become the very first woman to serve in the presidential cabinet after this. And when she was recalling the impact of the fire, many years later, she basically said that Out of that terrible episode came a self-examination of stricken conscience in which the people of this state saw for the first time the individual worth and value of each of those 146 people who fell or were burned in that great fire. We all felt that we had been wrong, that something was wrong and with that building, which we had accepted, or tragedy would never have happened. So, yeah, amazing woman. Like, she did so much wonderful shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was 109 years ago, as of March 25th this year. There was a centennial remembrance where, like, an artist created a lot of, like, these signs that were shirtwaists with the victims' names across them. And there's some great photos of that if you're willing to Google it. Maybe don't if you don't want to see some very upsetting pictures. But yeah, that was the Shirtwaist Triangle Factory.
Grisly,
good.
horrible. I
Thank
loved
you.
it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
It's also used as a example of, you know, what not to do in a sewing room.
Oh, really?
Fair.
Yeah, because my first quals were in fashion, and you know, you were told about this, and actually at the time, that was when the Bangladeshi fire was happening. But yeah, we were told like scraps on the floor, scraps in the bin. Really, like fire safety was such a prominent thing in an industrial sewing room as well, because also the machines are so big to get out from behind them. Can be a time, especially when you have a fuckload of fabric all over you.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, so
That's
very
terrifying.
important, but very
Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. Well, my sources for this one, I did not use Wikipedia for once. I did initially a little bit. I know, initially I did, but like there's a lot of material on this that was very, very good. There was a couple of different like YouTube videos that I watched. There was a PBS documentary called Triangle Fire that's on YouTube, American Experience PBS, I would recommend. There's a YouTube channel called Extra Credits, which is like pretty much kind of like an educational channel that sort of goes into more detail about a lot of historical stuff. And that was the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire Horror in Manhattan episode. The Smithsonian Magazine, HistoryChannel.com, which I did not expect to use, and a New York Tribune article, which popped up a couple of years ago.
Oh.
But yeah,
Very
that was
good.
my story for you this week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you're all sad now.
A little. It's really grim.
Yeah, I know. Fuck, it was sad.
Smoldering hair.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's tragic. It
Horrendous.
was so sad. I hope that you have worse for me.
Well, you know what? I'm going to read it. I'm going to find out.
Okay.
Yay!
Alrighty. So, ladies,
Yes.
listeners at home, have we ever heard of the Hoosac Tunnel?
No.
Spell it.
Hoosac.
No. Yeah, I definitely
Now,
haven't
if you
heard of it.
haven't, you would have heard of its alter ego, the Bloody Pit.
Yes.
Yeah, you've heard the Bloody Pit.
Yes, I'm
for-
excited.
Yeah. So for those of you at home that don't know, let me tell you a tale. So the Hoosac Tunnel stretches 7.5 kilometers through western Massachusetts. It is a dead straight railway tunnel underneath the Hoosac Ranges, mainly used for export. I think it's still used today, mainly export, trade, big freight trains. And it is believed to be balls to the wall haunted. There are ghosts all up in this tunnel. It's teeming with them. So a bit of backstory. The Hoosac Tunnel began construction in 1851 with a rough estimate of like $2 million USD budget, which back in 1851 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, construction ended 24 years later with a total bill of 21 million USD.
I was going to say.
And right under budget. Good job, boys. And 180 known human lives were lost.
Oh my God.
That's
Yeah.
all right for 24
Yeah.
years back in the day.
I guess
Yeah.
so, but fucking...
Consider it not bad on the scale of disaster.
No.
Well, so the fact that this tunnel took so fucking long to build and the fact that it was an actual death trap pissed off everyone, locals, workers, everyone. This caused construction to like stop and start over and over again. So that's why it took a long, long time. So the way this tunnel is constructed is that digging began at either end. So they were kind of going to meet in the middle. And then in the middle, from the top of the ranges, an exhaust shaft was constructed straight down. Digging occurred simultaneously in like a T-cross formation. So everyone was digging all at once. Yeah. So it's the 1800s and digging is a drag. It's slow, it's rugged, it sucks. We all hate it. Well, fear not, because during construction of the Hoosac Tunnel, a little something called nitroglycerin came onto the scene.
Big booms.
Big booms. So workers use this unstable explosive to speed up excavation. Super productive, but unfortunately super deadly. So 1865, about halfway through Hoosac's construction, 3 explosives experts, and I say that dubiously because how much can they know when nitroglycerin is both A, super new, and also, how is that your, like, job title? I'm an explosives expert.
That's great.
Immediately,
I'd
the
love to
first
be
thing
that.
I think of is very underrated Disney film Atlantis. The guy that's the explosive
Yes.
expert in that. He's just like, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It'll make it boom, and you're like,
Well, essentially that's what happens. So these 3 experts, Ned Brinkman, Billy Nash, and Ring Kelly, entered the Hoosac Tunnel to use their new toys, use their new explosives, and start work.
the new choice.
Yeah, so Brinkman and Nash armed the charges against the rock. They were like, okay, we're going to stick him up. And then Kelly was way back with the plunger. But as Brinkman and Nash ran, Kelly detonated the explosion too early, and the 2 men were buried alive under tons and tons of rock and earth.
What the fuck? Why
Probably-
wouldn't you wait till you saw them and be like, okay, they're safe now?
Well,
Oh god.
well, did Kelly detonate on purpose, or was this a horrible accident?
He did it on purpose.
Yeah,
He was
my
jealous.
opinion, guilty men don't run, and Kelly went missing straight after this happened.
Oh shit.
He fucked off.
He fucked off because he
Yeah.
knew.
So, yeah, either he was, like, horrendously just overcome with shame and guilt, or he was just like, boom, fucking bye, and he yeeted out of there. Who knows?
Did they find him?
Well, they do.
Oh.
He reappeared the following year, 2 miles inside the tunnel and very dead in the exact same spot that Brinkman and Nash perished.
Holy fuck! No way.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
God.
Is
Wait.
the cause
Gotta-
of death known?
So they could not determine who killed him.
Ooh.
But rumors say that it was the spirits of Brinkman and Nash. They did discover that he was strangled to death. So, how did he get strangled 2 miles in a tunnel by himself? We don't know. It was it was spooks. It was ghosts.
Yeah,
I
it was ghost. It
love
wasn't like
it.
a choke and stroke kind of vibe from him.
No, he didn't kill Billet. He, yeah. Yeah. So that happened. Police, they could not determine, and many of the workers believed that this tragedy, along with a series of other fatal accidents, put a curse upon the tunnel.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Yeah.
I think they're fucking right.
Tell us about this.
Yeah.
I want to know.
So reports of pained moans, weeping and screams can be heard inside the tunnel during construction, as well as ghostly apparitions of workers carrying mining equipment. There was one story of a man who entered the tunnels with a gun, and he felt unseen hands push him and tug at him and snatch the gun from his hands, and then he was beaten with it. And when he crawled out of the tunnel and reported it to whoever, I assume he reported it to the police or whatever, his injuries did match up with being beaten with the butt of a gun.
No.
Yeah.
Pistol whipped by a ghost.
Yeah, kinky, right? Sexy.
Yeah.
Hey, we don't, like I said in the other episode, we don't kick shame.
That's
We don't
Object
kick
rituals.
No, we do not.
Pistol whipped by a ghost, mate. You do it, do you?
You do whatever you gotta do
Mm-hmm.
to get yourself there.
Yeah.
Yep.
With other consenting parties.
Yes.
Yes.
Get consent.
Yes. So if that doesn't make you think that it was cursed, the main event of this segment just might.
We're not there yet. What the fuck? What are you gonna tell
no.
me now?
So you remember the exhaust shaft that I mentioned earlier as part of construction?
Yeah.
Well, in 1868, workers that were digging the shaft, so at this point it was 180 meters down, which is around 600 feet for those of you in the US that listen.
Thank you.
And then with the aid of a pumping station at the mouth of the shaft up, the 13 miners that were currently digging were able to move rock and earth with ease, and keep the way free of water, and also using water to mine. And it was all just very technological, very good. Now inside the pumping station, which is at the top, there's also a storage area where explosives, mining equipment, and machinery were all kept. It was kind of like a big one-stop shop for all of their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when a stray spark ignited the fuel in the storage and blew the pumping station sky high, this is when shit went down. Yeah. So, yeah. So first off, we've got explosions and fire.
Yeah.
Then we've got the pumping station out of commission, so the shaft begins to flood with water. Yeah. So the workers that are at the top of the shaft, on the top of the ranges, they're trying to put out the fire with like whatever little they have, and also trying to yell down the shaft to get the men out. They're like, we have to get them out. This obviously, like, everyone's just fucking freaking. And I guess this is very similar to yours, Laura, with like, it all happened in 18 minutes. This had to have happened
So quickly.
pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then as more fuel ignites, more explosions. And this sent tons of sharp mining tools and machinery up and sailing down into the shaft.
Holy fuck.
And this is why we know it as the Bloody Pit.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So this is picks, this is digging equipment, this is shovels, this is axes, this is drill bits, this is everything horrible and nasty and saw trap you can think of is just falling. And this is heavy, and 180 meters of like fall time, the like speed of which these things are falling is,
That's fucking terrifying.
is bloody, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
So there's a rescue effort attempted to retrieve the survivors, and a man is lowered into the pit by a bucket.
Okay.
So before this dude went down into the pit, he made sure his will and all of his effects were in order. He's like, because this is like after everything's kind of quietened down, we have to check if there's survivors, right?
Yeah.
So he's set himself up to be like, if I die down here, my family's good. And he gets in his little bucket, down he goes, and they pull him back up. A short time later, he is barely conscious from lack of oxygen and all of the fumes, and he just wheezes out, "No hope."
Oh.
And then he passes out.
Yeah.
He survives.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, but he passes out.
Fuck.
Yeah. So that's because it's like when you have mining shafts and they send a canary down to make sure there's like air. It's like he was the canary in the bucket in this situation.
Why don't you send a canary first instead of a man? Like,
Well,
He was probably paid a lot to go there.
yeah. All the canaries are in short
I don't
supply.
Yeah,
I
they
don't
used
know
all the
if he
canaries
was.
already.
Yeah. So after
they also went
pull
raining
up,
down into the pit.
exactly. Yeah, the canary, all the cages went flying down.
Oh, I'm sad.
Oh no, I'm sad too. So we've had Mr. Bucket come back up. He's fine. No hope. This is when the decision is made to close the shaft and stop all construction. Stop it all. Cut it. Nix it. That we're gonna stop.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. So no hope may be, but the pained cries for help that echoed from inside the pit remained.
Oh.
Yeah. So a year after the tragedy, the pit was reopened to retrieve the bodies of the men. Some of them had floated to the top, waterlogged and rotted.
Nice.
Some were buried too far below to get to right away, and once workers were able to get far enough inside to investigate, they found the remains of a makeshift raft and several men.
Oh.
Yeah. So a handful of these men, because there were 13 all up, had survived the initial explosion and the debris and the water and the lack of oxygen long enough to make a raft to survive the flooding.
Fucking hell.
And the
How
walls
long
of the
would they have
pit.
been there?
I have no idea. I want to say it because this is the thing. Like, there could have been pockets of air down there. There could have been, like, as much as, like, we are just bags of flesh and bone, we are still, like, pretty resilient. I feel. And like no one really knows how long they were down there, but long enough for them to make a raft, I feel like is at least a couple of... I've in my head when I first read this, I was like, oh, they were at least in there a couple of hours.
Yep.
If not longer.
Yeah, possibly days.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. I was like, they surely could have been in their days. Because you think of like the poor soccer kids who got stuck in that tunnel in Thailand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the Beaconsfield miners and just all these like little tiny horrible spaces, but you can just you're in there.
Yeah.
And once they'd recovered the raft, they also noticed that the walls of the pit were covered in desperate scratches.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So it's awful. So
Yeah.
that's the bloody pit.
Thank you, Tay,
You're
for
welcome.
your contribution.
Yes, it's short and very not sweet. But it's kind of like, again, with Laura's, like, I guess this might be a theme with this episode, like, where the fuck were the work safe?
It's the 1800s. That
Yeah,
doesn't exist. What are those
exactly.
words? Work and safe? They don't go together.
What? No, work and work goes
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just made me think, it's like, oh my lord. And then it still eventually was finished, and this tunnel is still used today. It's still, I want to say, probably definitely very, 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 very haunted. There are lots of our good old fashioned ghost chasing reality shows that have visited it.
Lovely.
Ghost hunters, ghost adventures, mostly haunted, all the good stuff. There are still like sightings of like the worker ghosts that I mentioned earlier. Like there's one instance that someone swear they saw a man holding a lantern walking into the tunnel.
Oh.
But dressed in very period specific clothing, and this was like in our modern day times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So just little instances like that. But yeah, definitely the bloodiest of pits. Which is what they call me.
Dox yourself.
So my sources for this tragic tale, I started off with Wiki, and then I moved on to top 5 scary videos on YouTube. We love you very much.
Love you, top 5 scariest videos. You're wonderful.
Because they've got I'll put it up on our Facebook page for you, those of you at home, but they have an excellent top 5 like scary tunnels. And I was like, this is amazing. And naturally, Hoosac Tunnel is number fucking 1.
Of course.
Nice.
Yeah, but there's some excellent other segments in that list. And also, should you want a deep dive while we're still in the throes of stage 3 isolation, which should be stage 4, by the way, go to top 5 scary videos and have a good binge, especially if it's like 2 a.m. The best time to do it.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. You never
Yes.
want to sleep again. You actually spawned a little thought, because I'm pretty sure both of you have watched a decent amount of the Saw franchise.
Yes.
Enough.
What's the one trap that made you cringe the hardest?
Oh my god.
Needle trap. Needle
Yeah.
trap.
Needle trap, really?
Yep.
So that was my answer until I learnt how they filmed it, and suddenly it wasn't gross at all to me. 'Cause I was like, oh. But the one where I believe it's in the same film, it's the glass cube with the key in it. And she has to put her hands inside the razor blade pipes, like the little openings.
Yep.
But so once she puts her hands in, it's open, but once they're in, she can't pull them out.
Yeah, I know.
That
it
one
makes you
fucked
so
me.
frustrated when you watch her do it.
Because she would have just put one hand in and held the razor blades open.
I know.
Mate.
Oh.
Mate.
But the thing that annoys me even more is when she pulls it out and it just breaks in her hands.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the top of the hypodermic needle just comes off, and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yes.
Well, that's not in keeping with the other traps. That's fucking stupid.
It's so stupid.
It makes me very mad.
Also, another one, just lightning round. I can't remember which film it is, but one of them, they're like frozen, and then they get sprayed with like warm water.
Oh yes.
So I think about that every time I get in the shower with cold feet, because my feet hurt. Every single time.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. What about you?
The glass one is definitely one that always like gets me. The needle one also grosses me out, and in case you didn't know, like, at home, how they filmed that, because I also felt the same way about that trap until I saw how they filmed it. It's all little rubber needles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't bother you anymore after you watch
No.
that. But
Because
the
I'm
one,
like, oh yeah, she's fine.
yeah, exactly. There's a couple of them, but one of them that really upsets me is the one where they have to cut flesh off until they, like, make a weight.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They have to, like, get
Ooh.
a scale to a certain weight, and they've got to basically put their flesh on there. So I was like, well, don't like that. That's
No.
upsetting.
Because it
That
makes
one,
me
yeah.
think, where would I cut first?
Yeah,
My
that's-
tits are too big. I'll just cut them off.
I would be fucked. I have no tits. That being said, I'd cut into that juicy ass and I'd be super fine. Oh
my
god.
god. I love it.
Horrendous.
Fuck. Beautiful.
Good.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Good.
Wow.
My last source, I've got AmericanHauntingSync.com, and then I've also got Atlas Obscura and New England Historical Society.
Oh,
Great websites.
Yeah, very, very
Excellent
good.
websites.
very cool. Very sad.
And that was the Hoosac Tunnel, ladies.
Thank
Very
you.
cool. Thank you, Kanye.
You are most welcome.
That leaves one.
Yes.
And then there was one.
And then there was one. Okay. So, witches.
Yes.
In 2012, I was traveling with my mum up the east coast of Canada on a pilgrimage to Prince Edward Island, so we could go through all the Anne of Green Gables things.
Oh, that's cute. I
very
just
good.
recently have watched Anne with an E on Netflix. Do recommend.
It's very, very good. So on our way up to PEI, we stayed in Halifax, which is the capital of Nova Scotia. And we wanted to go there to see the graveyard where the Titanic's dead were buried.
Oh,
That's so on brand for you.
Very
Yeah.
on brand. And what we actually found was Halifax is home to another disaster that we had never heard about. Have we heard
really?
of the Halifax Explosion?
Yes.
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 Yes, I have.
I think
Was it
you
because
told
I
me about
you
it.
to? Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Very possible.
My love, tell me again.
Yep.
Okay. So at the time the explosion happened in 1917, it was the most powerful man-made explosion in history, only outdone when the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima in Japan in 1945.
Shit.
In
Horrific.
fact, yeah, and when they made that atomic bomb, the scientists actually studied the Halifax explosion, and this is how they made the decision to detonate the bomb before it hit the ground for a bigger blast radius.
Oh my
that's awful,
god.
hey.
Oh,
That's sinister.
it's so
Uh-huh.
sinister. So just a bit of a history corner, so we got some background. Lacey's history corner.
Oh, new segment.
New
Yep.
segment.
Yes.
So Halifax was a backwater, but it is the most northern port that was the Commonwealth held. So during World War II, it's grew from I think maybe 2,000 people to 50,000 people. It was a huge asset. Supply ships and troop ships left there from Canada to the front, and in fact, Halifax is most of the last city that the Canadian boys saw before they went
Oh.
off.
Right.
In fact, fun fact, the good old RMS Olympic was a regular troop carrier there. So
Yeah, bitch.
back from our Oceans episode, she was in and out of there a lot.
That's
So,
lovely.
Yeah,
Nice
there we go.
callback.
Yeah, thank you. Cool. So, on the morning of December 6th, 1917, a Norwegian supply ship called the SS Imo was carrying relief supplies headed for Belgium. The Imo collided with a French vessel called the Mont Blanc at the narrowest point in the harbour after both ships failed to give way to each other. It was a sort of like a you move, no you move situation.
Well,
No.
we all
Like-
lost, didn't we?
We all lost. We did. So the IMO's captain was angry because he had been delayed at sea with supplies. So he put to sea without the harbour master's permission and was in the wrong part of the channel. He shouldn't have been there.
Fuck.
The IMO was going really fast and it was sitting high in the water, which made it very hard to steer.
Oh,
The Mont
okay.
Blanc, unfortunately, was a munitions ship.
Oh.
And normally it would fly a red flag to warn others of the dangerous cargo, but the Mont Blanc did not have its colours raised because it was coming in from the sea, and we don't want the Germans to know that we have like a fuckload of, munitions on board.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the dangerous cargo that the Mont Blanc had on board was 2,925 tons of highly explosive munitions, including TNT and gun cotton, which is kind of similar to dynamite, in the hull. But
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, it was like we've gone past that. We've gotten better shit to blow things up now. Yeah.
Okay.
We've moved on.
We've moved on. We've found more explosive shit. But on the decks of the Mont Blanc was 35 tons of highly flammable airplane fuel called benzol and pitric acid that was stored in very thin barrels stacked high on the deck. That's going to be the main problem.
I'm scared.
You say this and I just think of skincare.
Yeah.
When I think of acids, I just think of like a peel.
AHA.
Yeah.
AHA. Yeah, I love my acids. What happened in the harbour in maritime terms was a fender bender. Like, both ships would have been fine.
Had it not been for the
barrels
massive
and barrels of
yeah.
of acid on the deck. So when the ships collided, sparks were flown everywhere, and the barrels on the deck of the Mont Blanc caught alight.
Oh god.
Oh no. Oh no.
The ship, so the people on the Mont Blanc, they knew that they had a lot of munitions on board. They probably didn't know how much, because of course it was all like, need to know basis.
That reminds me of the there was the explosion at I think it was a Chinese factory not that long ago, maybe last year or the year before.
Yeah.
And it was like the place that exploded was basically like a warehouse that had way more of these very dangerous chemicals on site than they should have, and I don't even think the workers really understood what was there because of the way they were told to sort of like organize everything, and it was insane. Like, there's videos of it because there's quite a lot of like high-rise apartments close by that filmed it. And it's so big that, like, where the people are filming from, you're like, oh, they're going to be fine. And then all of a sudden chunks are flying at them and they, like, run away. And you're like, holy fucking shit.
Oh, my God.
It was massive. I have to remember what it's called.
So they tried to put out the fire, but then they decided to abandon ship because they didn't know how long they had until it blew up.
Fair.
So what happened was word got around Halifax that a ship was on fire from in the harbour, and so everybody came running down to the pier to see it.
Oh no.
Nothing else to fucking do.
So there's two sides of the harbour. So the Halifax side, which is, Docklands, pier, and then the other side, which is wasn't very developed. There was a few houses there, but there was also a native Canadian camp.
Okay.
So they rode to the side of the Canadian camp, and they were shouting at them to get back, but unfortunately everybody on the Mont Blanc only spoke French. So what one of the crew members did was he grabbed a child from one of the mother's arms and ran with it into the woods, and a lot of the tribe ran after.
Smart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not understanding what was happening.
But knowing one of their kids has been fucking taken.
Yeah.
Chase that dude.
So
That's a
the
ballsy
residents-
fucking move.
the
Like, good on
residents
him.
Kept chasing them, and they made it over the hill before the explosion. This act saved all of their lives.
That's so good. It's
So
horrifying, but so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while the ship was on fire, more and more people came down to the harbour to see it. Not because they weren't flying the munitions colours. Nobody really knew what was on the ship. Except there was maybe some officers, and one just happened to be looking out the window at the time and recognised the Mont Blanc from an inspection, and realised what the cargo had, what was in the cargo. He ran through the shipyard to warn as many people as possible,
that the burning ship was a munition ship.
Bless
One
him.
of the people he managed to tell was the telegraph operator Vince Coleman from the Halifax train station, who knew that there was going to be a train coming in that was going to pass by Pier 6 where the Mont Blanc had drifted.
Oh my god.
He ran back to the terminal and sent out the following message. Munition ship on fire in harbour, making for Pier 6, going to explode. Goodbye, boys.
Oh my god.
And he-
Goodbye, boys.
Goodbye, boys. And he gave his life to make sure that the train wasn't coming in.
Oh, bless him. Fuck, that's so sad.
Goodbye, boys. Oh my god. Oh, that's
It is
very
amazing that some
human.
people are so selfless because, like, the person in my story who had the fucking key for the
Yeah.
other fucking stairwell, who got out first and just left all those women to burn to death.
Yeah, he legged it straight away.
Yeah. I
And
often
yet there's
think
this
about
wonderful man.
I have to think about the telegraph operator on the Titanic who was trying to raise help, and he stayed at the desk to, try and get the help out, but
Yep.
that's
You know.
how it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's miserable.
All right. So, the blast was cataclysmic. The shockwave leveled the city. Ships in the harbour were sent hurtling towards the shore, tossed around like bath toys. And people remember seeing the bottom of the ocean. The
Holy
SS
shit.
IMO was washed ashore by the 15-metre tsunami that ensued.
Oh my god.
And the Mont Blanc was vaporised into 3,121 tonnes of steel that exploded into millions of fragments.
Oh, God.
Oh my
The
god.
large shank of the anchor, which is that, like the tall bit, was sent flying across the city, nearly 4 kilometres away, where it remains to this day as a monument.
Oh.
Fuck.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read you a little excerpt from a book called Curse of the Narrows by Laura MacDonald. The Narrows is where the ships, passed each other.
Yep.
The blast crushed internal organs, exploding lungs and eardrums of those standing closest to the ship, most of whom died instantly. It picked up the others only to thrash them against trees, walls and lampposts with enough force to kill them. Roofs and ceilings collapsed on top of their owners, floors dropped into the basement, trapping families underneath the timber. The fireball was invisible in the daylight. That's how bright it was.
Oh, my God.
Houses caught fire much like kindling. A lot of the houses were wooden because of the big population boom, so they had to get houses up really quickly. So all of the houses caught fire. Glass shattered at their weakest point, sending a shower of arrow-shaped slithers that cut their way through curtains, wallpaper, and walls. The glass spared no one. Some people were beheaded where they stood. Others were saved by a falling bed of bookshelves. Many others who watched the fire seconds before awoke only to find themselves unable to see. So the glass and all the fragments just went everywhere, and a lot of that's what killed a lot of people. The
my
glass, it shattered glass in 100-kilometre radius,
Oh, my God.
and the bang was heard in a 300-kilometre radius. So if the explosion took place in central Melbourne, like Flinders, the bang would have been heard in Wodonga,
Oh, my God.
Oh my god.
to give you the thing.
That's
That's
crazy. I'm just thinking about how I
terrifying.
would hear it from my house, and I live quite far from the city.
I'd be dead.
Yeah. I'd probably
Oh
be
my
blind.
God. Fucking
So,
hell. 100 kilometers for the glass to be shattered. Like, there was no way anyone could run that lived in the city or was in the city at that time.
No.
But guess where everybody in the city was? They were up against their windows looking out at the burning ship.
Oh my God.
Oh my god.
So the tsunami drowned survivors near the shore and swept other people out to sea, upturned cook stoves, ignited fires and consumed homes. So some people died of fires in their homes. One woman, Mary Jean Hinch, lost all her 10 children and her husband in the explosion. She was 8 months pregnant and
Oh
was
my God.
rescued after being trapped under her house for 24 hours.
Oh my
So,
god.
and she actually gave birth successfully. So,
thank
but
God.
she and her unborn son were the only survivors of her family.
That's so
10
sad.
children.
10.
10.
That's
So-
devastating.
Yeah. Oh, it's so unbelievable. So that and people like the blast stripped everybody's clothes off. There were 2 deep sea divers working in the harbour.
Oh, no.
They
Oh,
had
God.
the proper old, like, you know, weird steampunk, you know, diving outfit.
Oh, like full Bioshock. Yeah.
Yeah, Bioshock. They survived, but basically they were in the water checking like pipes and things to make sure that the harbour was going to be like deep enough for ships to come in and out, you know, regular stuff. Promptly found themselves on a nearby hill.
Oh my God.
Holy shit!
That
Were
could
they
have ended
injured?
so much worse.
Yes, so luckily they were tossed out of the water before basically it boiled.
Oh my god.
At the impact site where the Mont Blanc was, the temperature reached 5,000 degrees Celsius. That's almost the surface area of the sun. The temperature.
Oh my god.
Oh, I'm dumb. I can't say. I have no words.
You struck Tay dumb.
Yeah, because I know the story. I've forgotten so many little details. Maybe you just omitted them for a later time, which is now. And I'm continue, please.
So that night, a blizzard blanketed the city with more than 40 centimeters of snow.
Fucking god.
It was estimated that 25,000 people were left homeless or without sufficient shelter. So that's half the population.
I'm surprised that many survived that in the first place.
Yes. So a lot of them didn't have clothes, and they were outside in Canada in winter. In a blizzard. So a lot
I can't
of people,
even comprehend that. I've never seen snow. That's just it
they
sounds
were-
like hell.
It's fucked.
So people found like people frozen in doorways and things like that.
Oh god.
So in the hours that followed, remember that that message that the Vince Coleman managed to get out?
Yes.
Yep.
That reached Boston.
Yep.
So Boston, nobody could get in contact with Halifax. They started sending a fuckload of nurses and medical personnel
Oh, thank
Good.
God.
to Halifax. But it was
Yeah.
going to take them 18 hours to get there.
Oh god.
But Halifax had legions of disciplined military personnel and combat nurses who was very used to, you know, mass tragedies, who got on with things,
Oh,
right?
good.
So injured soldiers gave up their beds for the wounded. There was even one soldier, I forget his name, but he helped. He was discharged, a medical discharge from the war. He was in Halifax recuperating. He had 2 vertebrae shattered and a broken leg. He dug out his car and started taking wounded people to the hospital
Holy
over
shit.
debris. Like, I can't imagine how fucking painful that would have been for him with a vertebrae on like uneven
Yeah.
road.
Yeah.
Because speed bumps are still a fucking time for me. Okay.
Oh
Yeah.
god. I can imagine, dude.
So the hospital was completely full. It only had 258 beds, but took in more than 3,000 wounded.
Oh my god.
The 80 to 100 ships that were in the harbour, you know, the ones that were still kind of usable, even if they were
Yeah.
like blown onto the pier,
Yeah,
were
the bath
used as
toys. Yeah,
hospital
yeah.
beds,
Okay,
used as hospital ships. And sort of everybody got along with things. The army systematically started digging people out,
Bless them. Good.
and they helped set up, you know, a morgue and things like that. And food and everything started coming in from other communities. So the military was given full power, and they were like, "You keep doing what you're doing, guys."
Yeah,
Rock
pretty
on.
much.
Yep.
No one else has got any idea how to fucking deal with this.
No.
So everybody from Canada, New England, and Massachusetts sent building materials, labourers, doctors, nurses, food, and also raised money for Halifax. Eventually, even it reached Australia, whose our national government gave $250,000 to Halifax.
Good on you, Australia.
So that was really good. So surgeons operated non-stop, often without anaesthetic, or maybe a local.
Oh.
There was an eye doctor called George Cox who, when he heard of the shrapnel things, arrived immediately to see if he could help.
Yep.
Quote, he worked 40 hours removing eyes. He had bucketfuls of eyes around him. He
there it is.
chased everybody out and slept for 3 hours, and then he did it again. He removed hundreds of ruined eyeballs from everybody from like babies to, old men.
Oh, God.
Oh, I can just picture him with a melon baller. Like, I
Yeah.
can't.
Oh!
Oh.
Melon baller.
And it actually so many people were blinded or left, with one good eye, that this is where Canada's got really into like vision impaired things and having braille on stuff and having loud ticking noises for walking across the street. That's where they really came into their own with like helping vision impaired people, because they had so many in one town.
Yeah. God.
Good. Amazing.
And then, what are we doing here? So, there was a Halifax Relief Fund that took care of people affected by the blast, including psychological care, ongoing medical care, and provided like housekeepers and building materials and things like that. They also provided psychological care for the people who came in to help.
Yeah.
Which is more than they did for the people who helped with 9/11 or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go. And the city of Boston, Massachusetts dispatched so many people and was such a big help that to this day, every Christmas, Halifax donates a huge Christmas tree that sits in their Boston Common every year as a thank you gesture.
Oh,
It's beautiful.
really nice.
Now, it was a big thing about whose fault is it with the ships.
I bet.
Everybody but one sailor from the Mont Blanc survived. The other one sailor was killed by shrapnel.
Oh, God. I'm surprised they all made it. But at the same time, I guess if they went towards that one hill where there was no glass.
And then the SS IMO, you couldn't really arrest that captain because a lot of them were dead.
I was going to say, he's been vaporized.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we cannot be totally sure of the correct death toll. At least 2,000 minimum. That's
Holy
what they're calling
shit.
it.
Okay.
The injury toll was over 9,000.
Yeah, fuck.
Holy shit.
Many people, there was a lot of people orphaned. Actually, a third of the people dead were under the age of 15.
Oh, God.
Because all the kids would have run down to the pier to see
What was happening?
the ship. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
So the clock at the Halifax Citadel is permanently stopped at 9:04 a.m., which is when the blast happened, and it stopped the clock, and it remains like that to this day. That was the Halifax explosion.
That was wild.
Fuck.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that one. It's
Yeah,
one that,
thank you.
I'm pretty sure you told me about it and I had never heard of it beforehand, which is so strange because there's some things that seem to get, because we obviously all consume the content that we offer in a lot of ways as well. So, you hear about some stories again and again, and it's, something we sort of try to avoid touching on sometimes. There's some very obvious ones that you're like, I've heard about this a bunch of times though on other podcasts or in other like books or forums and stuff like that. It's so strange that I don't know that one. I wouldn't know that one unless you had told me.
Yeah.
And it's such a horrible disaster.
Yeah,
Like, not only was an explosion, but so many other things that triggered off from it. Like that's
the fact
oh
that
my
like
God.
it essentially created a city of the blind.
Yeah.
Like
Well, there was a first-hand account of a 8-year-old girl having to hold her 3-month-old brother while he had his eyes taken out.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, it's so fucked. But yeah, a triumph for the medical team and the army and all that kind of good shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it also led to, of course, new laws and things with regards to harbour safety and things like that. But, it was pretty shit.
Flags. They're there for a reason.
Flags.
Fly them.
Use them.
Swim between them. Yes.
Yeah, swim between them. Use them. Excellent.
Fucking hell, yeah. Brutal.
Yeah, my sources.
Thank you.
History.com, Washington Post, globalnews.ca, canadianhistory.org, and I actually used, there's 2 books that my parents have, and I've forgotten their names. This is just the surface of this whole thing.
Really?
And so many books and things have been written about it. If you're interested, I have not spoiled anything for you. Pretty
That's
much.
wonderful.
Go forth.
There's
Go
so
look
much
deep
more
and
to
conquer.
see.
Yeah.
There's so much more to learn.
Yes.
Definitely.
Amazing.
Fuck, that was really good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Now
Thank
I'm
you,
devastated.
Haz.
I'm so sad. I'm sad about both of your stories.
Yeah. We had a lot of grim ones, didn't we? I guess that's the thing with disasters. They're a disaster for a reason.
Yes, they are.
At
They
least
are
next
horrible.
week, it's not going to be man-made disasters.
Yeah, it's
gonna
just Mother
be
Nature being a bitch.
nature being super metal. Yeah, it'll be great.
It will be a time. Yeah, I'm very excited about that one. Mine's a mystery for you.
Oh.
Ooh.
Mine's
Yeah.
just horrible. Yeah.
Look, mine isn't great.
I'm continuing my explosion phase.
Yes.
I know you are. I'm very excited for yours.
Wonderful.
Super, super keen.
Yeah. Stay tuned at home, guys. Make sure to follow and subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, wherever you get your podcasts. We're probably there.
Yeah.
More info at weirdsisтерspodcast.com. Do chuck us a follow on our socials. We love to see you there. We love to see you commenting. Please comment more. We love it. We love the validation, as we say
Yes.
always. Please leave us a review. Thank you.
Yeah, we like to post some photos and just silly memes and things like that on both our Facebook and our Instagram. So if that's the kind of stuff you like, please follow us there, talk to us there. We like it. We get bored. We're in ISO. We have nothing better to do. Well, I'm done. I have nothing else to say
Yeah.
to you, and I would like you to leave my living room, please.
You know
Your
what?
oral presence.
Done.
Thanks, guys. Love you all.
Love you all. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.